Kevin, Devin Bellamy real quick. I mean, I know he's got to say he got a little talent. I guess the ones during the scrimmage kind of what you're seeing from him right now.
Like most of the guys, he's had a pretty decent fall camp. He's working hard like the rest of them and trying to do everything we're asking him to do. In this fall camp, it's kind of getting to the point where most of them are kind of ready to line up against someone else other than their own teammates. But he's had a good fall camp.
Bellamy's a guy though that just because the guys ahead of him, we haven't seen him much. Is that going to change?
If he keeps, practicing doing the things in Coach Pruitt's defense, there's not really a depth chart. He likes to play sort of by committee. A lot of it depends on how you practice that week. Like I said, he's had a good fall camp, so if things keep going the way they're going, he could have some significant playing time. But again, that could go from game 1 to game 2 and change based off of how well the guys practice that week. So.
Is he running with the ones, or is that kind of a
Again, we don't really have a depth chart. I know that's it alternates. It alternates by practice. A lot of it depends on how you perform. If you perform well in the last practice, you may get moved up. If you don't perform as well, you may get moved down. A lot of it's just organizational. But every guy has been, with the first, second, and third group, depending on what we're doing that day in practice.
How many guys you feel comfortable with right now as being part of the rotation?
There's probably 4 guys that have got the opportunity to play, in some role or capacity, or depending on, how the game or who we're playing offensively, how that shakes out. And then, we'll probably travel guys that'll also play some special teams that might kind of gradually work into some of the game plan throughout the season.
Are you not counting shoots, or are you not counting Floyd in that 4?
Well, Leonard's in there as well. I mean, that's 5. Leonard's working, a couple of different positions, which kind of helps open up some opportunity for other guys to kind of go out there and work a little bit. But there's you've got young guys and the freshmen that have come in that have worked some too, and and again we have different packages, so. As you change packages, the guys on the field change also. So it's kind of a revolving door depending on what type of offense we're facing in a down and distance situation.
Kevin, Jeremy said you'll be up top again in the booth this year. What
Yes.
is exactly your role? Where you synchronize with getting? Do you suggest things, or you see, or and it's his final decision?
Yeah, basically, kind of. I'm sort of his eyes in the sky, you might say. I give him down the distance. I tell him, where the ball's at, kind of what's going on, give him a feel for things. If it's a good play, bad play, tell him what happened from us, from the offensive perspective. Try to call out the personnel, the formations, just so, sometimes it's not as easy to see. I mean, upstairs you got a pretty good view. So, and there'll be times, make suggestions and things like that. But it's, he kind of knows what we're doing overall. But then, we all kind of have a voice in the matter, and Rock and Eck and everybody. So. Our graduate assistants will help, on some of those things. Everyone's got a part that they watch, and then it all kind of comes together, and in between series too.
Does Leonard Flood look comfortable and effective wherever you put him, whether it's inside, outside, star?
Yeah. Yeah. He's a good player.
We've heard a lot about Jake Gaines at the inside linebackers, but obviously Chukes has that same experience.
Yeah.
Not quite as old, but what's he meant to your defense and to your position specifically?
Coming in, he's kind of moved, about halfway through the spring to outside, and that's a lot of things we do. We train guys in multiple positions to kind of create some depth, and he's starting to mature as a player a little bit, he's brought some in the last. Probably week, he's had a little more mature, I guess, practice from what I'm saying, where he kind of is comfortable with that position. But he is a guy that can play multiple positions, so it does give us the option, if we get to that point.
What are you looking to get out of Lorenzo Carter in his second year?
We try to train all of our guys to be every down players, first, second, third down. Last year he was sort of a third down specialist, you might say, and gradually his role increased as the season went. I'd like for him to be an every down player this year. And again, that's, it's not the traditional, hey, he's a one and he's a one until someone beats him out. It's going to change. It could change by the play in practice. It could change by the play in a game. But you got to show up, perform every practice, every game to be able to kind of keep a start and roll, if that might be what it is. So.
Is that something he's having to learn a little bit?
What's that?
Is that something Lorenzo's having to learn a little bit?
No, I think just I mean you know it is on first and second down. Traditionally, you're going to get run plays. Third down, obviously, depending on the down and distance, you're going to get passing plays. He loves to rush the quarterback, but we want him to be on the field when he can play the runs and strike blockers and do those things and be a well-rounded player. So it's not the learning; it's just more of the development as a player. Most guys don't really come in and play quite as much as a true freshman. On the defensive side, offensively it's a little easier because you're a receiver, running back, whatever it is. But those guys kind of learn the system and the techniques and all those things. So a lot of it's just a development of his age.
Along that line, Jerry, Kevin, have you seen the young guys really, not particularly your position, but all inside linebackers, everybody really learning and adapting to the system, and they're going to have to help you in these first games?
Yeah, I mean, you sign them all to come play, and whether they show up day one and start or it's game 10, you can't really tell. All the young guys that have come in, I mean, they're like everyone else. You have to mold the player into what you want them to be, and they're at a different pace at each one of them. You'll have flashes of a guy, a play or two, and then 2 plays later he may be so bad off that you're having to coach him up, but that's the beauty about it. You're going out there competing every day against the offense versus the defense. So some guys are going to have good practices one day, and the next day might not be so good. But usually when we start trimming it down and getting kind of refined into our game plan, that's when those guys start kind of all the fog sort of clears for them, and they get a better understanding of what is expected of them.
Looking outside your position group, is there one of these young guys who has caught your eye?
All of them have really. I mean, all of them got a lot of talent. There's not one guy in particular that I could just single out. On the offensive side, defensive side, there's a lot of guys, and again, some days they have, good practice, good play. The next day, they may be, you may not even notice that they're out there. But the one thing I can say that they're all doing, they're working hard, they're trying to get better. They're trying to show up for that first game and, get out there and make some plays. And, you never really know till you get a few games into it with injuries and how those things will factor out.
So you put an extra emphasis on run stopping at your position with some of the guys you have?
Yeah, I mean, it's always an emphasis for us, probably a little more is the development of those players because, you're going to face some teams that are going to try to run the ball down your throat. You've got some teams that are going to try to spread you out. So, in my position, those guys have got to be able to go in there and be like a defensive lineman. Then they've got to walk out and be like an outside backer, on a receiver or whatever. So we have to kind of be multiple in what we do. But first, if you can't stop the run, then you don't get to go out there and rush the quarterback and do the things that they like to do. So it's always an emphasis in our defenses to stop the run because and we get to see a lot of it the way our offense is able to run the ball.
Coach, you talked about how you guys have to kind of walk up in line of scrimmage, be defensive linemen, and kind of play that role at times. You were talking with Lorenzo last week, and he was talking about how the communication between the defensive linemen and linebackers is so crucial in this defense. How do you feel like with this, losing some guys there, having to play some young guys there on the defensive line? How do you feel like that communication is going right now? Do you feel like you're on the same page?
It's like learning a new language. You're going to go in, and some words are going to be easy to learn. Some are going to be foreign to you. It's going to take you time. And the biggest part is the linebackers do have to communicate out what to do because it helps those guys understand, what's going on, where they align, and all that. And our coaches teach really good. I mean, most of us taught, coached high school football, so we've been in a classroom setting where you touch the kids at the top, the bottom of the class, and in the middle. So, it makes you be creative as a coach to be able to reach each person. Each person learns differently. So, a lot of it's outside factors too. School starts, that changes, a little more stress and factors to throw in. But, it's the second year in the system, and our inside backers are understanding what to do and how to say it before we really have to yell out there to them and tell them, hey, set the front here, do this, do that. They kind of have a good understanding of that, and they can kind of teach each other. And the players did a good job this summer of doing that too.
Anything else? Okay. Thank you.
All right. Appreciate